ABC, Dave here. Randy Weaver dropped his album titles that begin with the letter G today, which is Sunday. And I thought I'd chime in. I thought I'd keep doing this for as long as I've got albums for it, or, you know, as long as my phone lasts. It's rather hard uploading a video. The other time, it seems it works better like whenever I do shorter videos. So let's get going with the letter G. First one is Steely Dan's Gaucho. Babylon's Sister, I remember being on the radio back in the day. I think Steely Dan kind of attributed a little bit to my interest in jazz. So it was around this time too that they started, even really before it, that they started making gold albums, and this was a big seller for them. This is Stomu Umashta, Steve Winwood and Michael Shreve, Go. I believe it's Go too, isn't it? No, just Go, the Go album. There it is right there. Anyway, here's a picture of them. Kind of a electronic synthesizer type album. There's a lot of interesting musicians on here aside from those three. Al Di Meola plays on here as well. Comes with this little booklet, or it did back in the day. It has some lyrics on it. Al Di Meola plays on it along with Klaus Schulze. So yeah, kind of a progressive rock, spacey type album, but a real interesting one for sure. Let's Go. This is Bo Diddley's Go, and this kind of looks like a blues album, but actually it's a early rock and roll album. This is Bo Diddley's second album that he made, and around this time that he made this was in the 50s, and it's like 50s rock and roll. So if you're not into that, you know, you probably wouldn't like this either. I kind of just bought it on the album cover alone, but yeah, it's like early rock and roll. And supposedly on this album, he made this guitar that he features on 2 songs, which is this guitar here. But I don't recall any of the songs that are on here, but it's a fairly interesting album. This is Go 2 by XTC, their second album. And it's probably one of their more quirky albums, although it took me a little bit longer to get into this one. But once I, you know, got into it, I appreciate it just about as much as some of their other ones. They were a little bit quirky starting out as a, you know, band until they could kind of get their, you know, their feel for, you know, what they wanted to do with their music. But yeah, interesting album cover with all this type on here. So that's XTC's Go 2. This is Yes's Going for the One. It's not quite as good as some of their other earlier albums for me, but it's still worth owning, and I don't regret buying it. Going for a One was a hit back in the day, and it's got Wondrous Stories on it too, which is a really interesting album. So it folds out like this, triple fold. I can't get it all in here. There's the members of the band, and then, you know, it kind of looks like this too. So yeah, it had Wondrous Stories on it, and the hit Going for the One. And yeah, it's a good album. Around this time, they started changing up some of the members in their band, and Every time they change members, their sound would get a little bit different. But it's worth owning. This is Thomas Dolby's Golden Age of Wireless. I'm not too much into punk or new wave much, but I've held on to some of my albums, the ones that I really like. And, you know, I held on to this one too, just because I like the way all the tracks are composed and everything on it. It's got the song Europa on it, along with Radio Silence, which was a hit for him back in the day on MTV. It's a really fun album, and it's really composed well with him layering all those songs on here and everything. So yeah, Thomas Dolby, The Golden Age of Silence. I really like the I forget what you call this style of science fiction. This is Frank Zappa and the Mothers, The Grand Wazoo. This is sort of one of his middle albums, and I would say that this is kind of gets into big band. There's the members right there. Kind of has a big band feel to it, and on some of the songs, not all of them. Of course, there's a little bit of comedy music too on here, like for Calvin and his next two hitchhikers. And you know, some of the other songs, but yeah, it's got a lot of members on here, and yeah, it's a really neat Frank Zappa album. Kind of big band, like I said. Randy showed a Grateful Dead album, so I better show one too. This is their self-titled first album. And to tell you the truth, I remember this in the rock press back in the day, and you know, them just talking about it and everything. They were kind of in a little bit of all the rock press back in the day, Rolling Stone or whatever, Crawdaddy or what have you. And you know, so I bought this, and I expected it to be real wild. I kind of really expected it to be kind of like maybe their second album, which is Anthem of the Sun. But it's really a different feel on this album. Like I said, I didn't like it at first, but the more I listened to it throughout the years, I came to enjoy it more and more. There's the back. And you know, it's got Morning Dew on here, and you know, Cream Puff War, and you know, a lot of their hits that they've played. But yeah, a really neat album actually. Kind of more bluesy. Fred Frith's Gravity. This is kind of a progressive rock album, almost rock in opposition. A lot of people on here from the progressive community. Fred Frith is a guitarist, and a really interesting one too. He's real inventive with the way he plays his guitar and the way he puts his composition together. He was in Henry Cow earlier on, and I think his compositional skills, he kind of picked up a lot from that band, and the way he wanted to compose his music. And he's got a lot of albums and played on a lot of different other people's albums. So yeah, if you're looking for some adventures type music, you know, you ought to check into some Fred Frith. This is the self-titled band group 87, which came out in 87 too, if I recall right. It has Mark Isham on here, who I showed in one of my earlier videos. It's got Mark Isham that plays the keyboards, electronics, and brass. He plays the trumpet as well, if I recall right. You got Patrick O'Hearn, who played in the Frank Zappa band. It plays bass. and a Peter, I probably mispronounced his last name, Peter Maunu plays the drums. No, he plays the guitar and keyboards. So maybe no drums on here, I don't know. But he plays a guitar, keyboard, and violin. But yeah, sort of an interesting album. It's all instrumental album, sort of jazz rock, I'd say, or progressive jazz rock. Early album by Mark Isham and band. Steve Earle, Guitar Town. I like listening to singer-songwriter stuff and kind of, you know, stuff like Steve Earle, and there's a lot of other ones, James Taylor, and, you know, I like the way that they compose their lyrics and the way they compose their songs. And they're real good on guitar too, and I'm kind of more lean to more guitar music. But yeah, this is his first album, I believe, and you know, a really good one by him. He's put out several good albums, but yeah, Steve Earle, Guitar Town, excuse me. And Randy showed a Ventures album. He was playing one in the background. I'll show this one too. This is a Guitar Freak Out by the Ventures. There's stuff on here. There's like covers of, back in the day, Ventures used to do a lot of covers, and the covers on here are, say, Good Thing, which I think was a Paul Revere and the Raiders song. You've got I'm a Believer by the Monkees, and back in the day, Snoopy versus the Red Baron was a hit on the radio way back when by the Rural Guardsmen, if I recall that correctly. And there's also a theme on here from a motion picture back in the day, which probably was, I think, was made by Roger Corman, called Theme from the Wild Angels. But yeah, they still have their surf type sound on this. These played Morse-Right guitars, but it's an okay album. A little bit dated, you know. It's kind of got that surf rock feel to it, but it's called Guitar Freak Out. So there you go. Those are the albums that the titles begin with G, and hope everybody's doing well and enjoying their summer. And I guess we'll see what I come up with next time. So talk to you later. Bye-bye.